our virtual celebration of 45 years of incredible community service here in the San Francisco Bay Area, making sure that domestic violence survivors have a safe place to be around the clock. And before we kick off the program tonight, which begins at 6, we have the opportunity to spend some time getting to know Uncle Tim's bottled cocktails. I want to thank everybody who is tuned in right now and watching and participating with us this evening, because you upgraded your ticket in order to have this special experience and received your amazing trio of cocktails in the mail along with me. And now I would love to introduce the co-founders of Uncle Tim's who we have here with us tonight, and let them introduce themselves.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Catherine, for having us. And it's a pleasure to host this tasting with all of you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to share some interesting and unique little cocktails with you. My name is Patrick Stern. I'm a co-founder of Uncle Tim's Cocktails. And with me tonight is my co-founder, Uncle Tim. And tonight, what we're going to be doing is kind of running through, about 15, 20 minutes of a tasting of 3 different cocktails. But I think to start us off, before we jump into those, I would love to have and pass the ball over to Tim, just to give you a little bit of a background and kind of history about Uncle Tim's and what has inspired these lovely cocktails. Tim?
Thank you, Patrick. I'm Tim Felkner, one of the co-founders of Uncle Tim's Cocktails. And I just wanted to start off by telling you a little bit about why I started Uncle Tim's. Well, for decades, I have enjoyed creating craft cocktails. I hope that's obvious. And really, the essence of that is I love creating experiences for people, especially ones that bring people together, like tonight, even virtual. That counts too. I really love that moment when I can put a smile on someone's face when they taste a unique flavor combination, and you can see their eyes light up. You know how sometimes a flavor will inspire a memory, some distant memory you had in the back of your brain that you'd forgotten about? Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about. One of the reasons why Uncle Tim's has focused on these cocktail sets like you're tasting tonight, like the Negroni set, is that these sets allow us to set up a unique tasting experience in your own home. So each of our sets feature a classic cocktail and then some unique variations of that classic. So essentially, I've tried to figure out a way to bottle that unique experience that I was just talking about. What we try to do is create that experience beyond the bottle. For me, it's about connection and it's about tradition. In a way, I guess you could say it's part of my family's tradition. After I started this company, I actually found out that my great-grandfather was a rum runner during Prohibition. He kept the speakeasies of New York City stocked in the 1920s. Turns out, though, my family didn't really want to openly admit about my great-grandfather's criminal past. So that's why it had been a family secret for so long. But I guess keeping the party alive has just been something that's in my blood. And so it's something that I'm really happy to share and continue the family tradition of sharing and creating the perfect evening. So I hope you enjoy the tasting, and cheers. I'll pass it back over to Patrick.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. And again, kind of carrying that tradition, we really want to thank La Casa and obviously Catherine for having us. It's great to be working with such an organization doing such amazing things. So again, thank you to all of you. Let's get started and kind of jump into things. A quick overview of what we're going to be doing this evening. First off, what we're going to be touching on is just a little bit of a back history of what the cocktail is. Most of you know that we have a Negroni here, so you probably have received your package ahead of time, hopefully, all of you. And then what we're going to be going through is 3 variations of a Negroni. But most of you know that anything, especially like a cocktail, there's always an original inspiration. So the great thing that Tim is touching on here, there's an original inspiration with these cocktails, and we've kind of built on them. And so we're certainly going to start with a classic, or Uncle Tim's classic Negroni here in a moment. But the Negroni itself actually goes back to the 1920s. And in 1919, at least they say, that's when Negroni, who's a Duke, that's where the namesake comes from, ordered a cocktail, specifically an Americano, in Florence, Italy. So that is at least the original story, but essentially what he was asking for with this Americano, not the coffee that most of us know here in America. The Americano actually normally has a vermouth and some type of bitter or a Campari, and then club soda. And what he asked the bartender to do was, please provide me a strengthened Americano, essentially asking for more alcohol. And what the bartender did was add gin instead of club soda, making it the Negroni that we know it today. The history kind of took off from there. Actually, Negroni bottled the cocktail and did a bunch of different things with it. And so it went and faded and came back through the different renaissance that we've all seen in the last 10, 20 years of cocktail culture and everything. And so that's what we're going to be tasting tonight, and jumping into kind of that history. Now, in that same vein, the great thing is that inspiration and iteration where you're swapping out different things, you'll see kind of a trend with our tasting tonight and how that brings together all kinds of interesting elements in our tasting. So let's jump in. We do need a few things. First off, we need glasses. If you have 3 of them, that's very useful. I have 3 different glasses here. Catherine, do you have 3 or do you have 1?
I do. I have 3.
Perfect.
So that I can
and
join
Tim,
you.
You got 3? Wonderful. Great. So you're going to be my taste testers. So you're going to give us tasting notes as we go through. So with these 3 different glasses,
we're going to try. I'll do my best.
Perfect. So, and then also what we also need is ice. The great thing about Uncle Tim's cocktails is they're pre-mixed. You don't need to add anything at all. There's some nice things like garnishes, which we'll talk about, but for all intents and purposes tonight, all you're doing is pouring over ice, okay? So let's keep it simple and easy. So I have some nice ice cubes here that are rounded. You can just use normal ice, from your refrigerator at home. If you have some nice cocktail ice cubes, that works very fine as well. So from here, what I'm going to have you do is we're going to go ahead and start with the Uncle Tim's Classic Negroni cocktail. You might be able to see the label. You'll probably have it in front of you. That's the one that we're going to be starting with here, okay? So you'll go ahead and open that up first, just because we want to have that open. And you can set that to the side there, Catherine. And then go ahead and throw your ice into your tumbler or your glass, okay? And we're doing a tasting. So keep in mind, this has one, Uncle Tim's Cocktails has 1 entire cocktail in here and a little bit of extra, okay? So all you're going to do is just pour over ice and just do a little tasting like that, okay? The reason being is you might want to come back to this one later, or you might have a favorite one that you want to save for the actual event, okay? Now, while we're doing this, my cocktails are served at room temperature. So these cocktails are designed to actually just pour over ice and then be cooled off, okay? So what you want to do is kind of bring that temperature up of that cocktail with the ice, or excuse me, down to where you want it to be. And you should be able to feel the glass and feel that cool. And then you can, just like wine, kind of put your nose in it and maybe stir around a little bit more. This just agitates it and brings out more flavor as you kind of check out what's going on, similar to wine tasting. And Catherine, what are you getting so far before you even taste it?
Well, it's juniper, but it's got a kind of a rusty back smell to it as well.
That's a great description. You must be from the Bay Area. It's definitely so. Are you getting any citrus notes or anything like that?
Maybe a little citrus, a little orangey.
There you go. Perfect. And that's actually one of the main elements in the bitters that we have as well. So, and go ahead and taste it if you want. And for those of you that are watching, go ahead and taste. Oh, mine is the perfect temperature right there. That's tasty. Catherine,
Very
your
nice.
thoughts? Yeah.
It's smoother than I expect based on the smell, but it's got a really nice, and the citrus experience is kind of more forward. It's very nice.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
It's, you know, and a testament to Tim here. I'm just going to go ahead and toot his horn for a second. Like being able to bring this together, a normal Negroni usually has 3 different elements. Obviously bitters, vermouth, and then the gin. So when you have those, most people see the recipe as equal parts. But as we all know, not all gins and not all bitters and vermouths are created equal. So what Tim has really done is really created a nice even keeled balance. And especially when you add the ice and dilute it a little, it's really nice and smooth. So
yeah,
one
Catherine,
of certain,
I was just going
certainly
to say,
really nice. Go ahead.
I'm glad that you picked up on the orange because that's the classic garnish for the Negroni. I tried to add some orange element so that in case you're at a park or, I don't know, a beach or on a plane or something, you may not have an orange with you. And so I wanted the cocktail to feel complete all by itself. And so I added some of that orange element in case you don't have an orange garnish with you.
Yeah.
And it adds a really, I mean, it's a beautiful color. It's got
Yeah.
a little orange, you know, element to it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Thank you.
Totally. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave it right here. For those of you that are out there watching, again, we're just doing a tasting because, again, once we're done, obviously you want to pick which cocktail you want to have for the rest of the evening because we have a lot coming and in store for you. So without further ado, we're going to move on to our second cocktail. Okay. And this is Uncle Tim's Mezcal Negroni. Okay. So the Mezcal Negroni will obviously go in a very interesting direction. If those of you out there that know what Mezcal is, Catherine, I assume you've had Mezcal before?
A little bit, yes. I'm familiar with it.
Perfect. So with that, again, we're going to take the glass and go ahead and add our ice to that glass and go ahead and pour your tasting for yourself.
There's that rustier smell.
Yeah, definitely. So same thing, go ahead and stir around, let it bring up that kind of temperature and everything or bring down that temperature. A note on, for those of you out there, if you like cocktails that are a little bit stronger, it's always good to put it in the fridge. So if you like the cocktails tonight, you can put it in your freezer and cool it down and then put it on ice. It will dissolve less on ice. And so you will put less water in. But, and Catherine, I don't know what you think here, but if you want to soften the cocktail and kind of have it dissolved a little with a little bit of water, again, pouring it over ice like I'm doing right now kind of softens that bite and lowers the ABV overall as far as the alcohol content. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Those ice rocks are important. It depends on your flavor palette.
oh, the ice rocks for certain. I know exactly what you're talking about. So, Catherine, what are you seeing as the difference here between the classic and now the Mezcal Negroni?
Well, let me taste. I mean, the smell it's much more pungent. I'm surprised to see it's the same kind of color, but let me taste. Much smokier. It's very good, but I mean, that's the Mezcal edition, right?
Absolutely. So you can tell right away what we've done is we've swapped out the gin for the Mezcal and essentially kind of replace those. And the great thing about Mezcal is it's such a distinct and unique flavor profile. Not everybody is totally up for it. You know, sure, if you've had Scotch, you'll know exactly what that flavor is. It's very similar to that smoky kind of flavor with Scotch, but it takes the cocktail in a totally different direction. and really does bring a lot of elements. Tim, just kind of your thinking in crafting this, because again, the balance of all of these different flavors certainly takes a unique kind of approach instead of going equal parts all the way across.
Yeah, so I not only switched out the mezcal for the gin, but also chose different bitters and different vermouth because I really wanted to highlight the mezcal in a different way. And so it's been really fun crafting these cocktails to bring out different elements. I wanted to bring out some of the smoky elements, but also, there's a real like pretty quality to a nice mezcal, just like with a nice tequila or any nice spirit. And so to me, I tried to make this even a little bit more mezcal or spirit forward, so that you're really getting those elements. And I feel like the vermouth and the bitter are just meant to be, supporting characters here.
Right, totally. Well, and there's lots of different ways I've played around, even with doing like a little bit of lime zest or something like that, just to bring out and accentuate it. There's lots of things that you can
grapefruit
do
as well is one of my personal favorite garnishes here. But there are some of those citrusy elements, as I mentioned with the Negroni. I added some orange. Here I tried to bring out a little bit of grapefruit.
Perfect. Cool. So just because we're pressed for time, we also want to jump into the next cocktail here. And while we're getting ready, again, same thing, go ahead and add your ice to your glass. These cocktails are used in different ways. Again, a Negroni is more of an aperitif and just can be something that's after dinner. But the mezcal Negroni is always novel and interesting and great, before dinner or during or something like that. The last one that we're going to be doing, which is Uncle Tim's white Negroni here, you'll notice right away is just the color totally changes. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I can't reach all the way to show the label. But essentially, you'll notice the color right away. And that color is because we're swapping out two other elements than what we've been swapping out before. So before we were doing gin and we were doing mezcal, swapping those out with the vermouth and bitters, the same. Now what we're doing is we're swapping out the vermouth and the bitters for a more clear spirit. So that way we can create the color. So go ahead and pour yourself that tasting. And I'll go ahead and put back the other one here and stir that. And we'll give everybody a moment to do that and just kind of get a good flavor profile here.
Now you guys have some Bay Area roots, don't you?
Yeah, so that's interesting. So Tim, maybe you want to just touch on while everybody is tasting. Everybody, you're welcome. Go ahead and taste once you're ready. Tim,
Sure.
maybe you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I was actually born in the Bay Area. I spent some time growing up in Minnesota and then moved back to the Bay Area. Spent the last about 12 years there, and then recently relocated to Denver. And so checking out a new part of the country.
That's great. That's great. Well, we are so glad to be able to partner with you all in this event tonight, and to see your footprint expanding across the country. I know you do national sales and production is on the way. So this is a very different flavor. Sorry, I was taken off guard by the difference in the white Negroni.
Yeah, a little bit subtler nose and not as pungent, but totally goes in a different direction. And again, kind of a little bit more subtle, like floral notes and lemon peel. Great with the lemon peel garnish. But something that Tim and I have been doing is also adding a spritz. So if you add soda water to it, cut it a little bit, it brings out more of the flavor, and always an interesting way to go as well. And you can certainly do that at home for those of you that are out there as well. So without further ado, though, we are towards time, and certainly want to give you, those folks that are out there and watching, time to get ready for the main event. If you have a moment, certainly consider moving to the kitchen really quick and finding that garnish for your favorite cocktail that you will be drinking tonight. We certainly think that there's a lot of great things prepared. We've got a sneak peek of things. But again, certainly want to thank Catherine and the folks at La Casa for having us participate tonight. And if you want to hear more about Uncle Tim's and stuff like that, obviously we will follow up with an email. But again, the main event is tonight. And again, Catherine, thank you so much for having us tonight. Hope everybody out there enjoyed.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you back here at 6.
All right. Wonderful.
Thank you.
All right.
Cheers.
Can you talk?
I can talk. Does this sound like me? Let's hope my computer is not dead. Sorry. Okay. All right. It has enough juice.
Is there another fan going on back here?
Yes, there is. Yeah, kill all those. The air conditioning too, I think, might need to be turned off.
Yeah, if we could kill the air conditioning, that would be awesome.
Oh my God. I hope this teleprompter works. I mean, it's going to work. I hope it works. It's good. So is there a delay in the sound? I'm going to keep talking. We're going to keep things going. My mic is live somewhere. Welcome, everyone, to the 2021 Red Hot Party. Tonight, we are here to celebrate the transformational work happening every day at La Casa de las Madres, and we've got an action-packed program lined up. You'll hear from the front lines of the fight to stop domestic violence, where we strive to make safety a priority in every intimate relationship. You'll hear from our fearless leader and executive director, Kathy Black, who's been at the helm for 25 years. You'll hear from one of our longtime champions about how her door to safety opened and why La Casa services are so vital. And you'll have plenty of opportunity to support La Casa, our mission, and the thousands of survivors La Casa will empower over the next year and beyond. I'm Catherine Berg, La Casa's Community Partnership and Philanthropy Director, and I'm thrilled to be your host this evening. I would love to be able to reach out and ask about your story, but this is going to be a one-way conversation for most of the evening, so I'll just tell you a little bit about me. I began at La Casa as a fresh-faced volunteer over 20 years ago, not knowing how much respect I would grow to have for this incredible community and organization. Seeing abuse, naming domestic violence, and changing patterns, this is lifelong work that asks a lot of a victim or survivor. I know the strength that comes from surviving through so many of La Casa's clients that I've had the honor to know, and my own mom, who showed me again and again how she was determined to stop the cycle of violence she'd learned growing up and center respect in all of her relationships. I carry her resilience and my own, and I'm grateful to be here with you to celebrate 45 years of La Casa. Domestic violence really does impact all of us. 1 out of 3 women will experience abuse across her lifetime. But 3 out of 4 people know someone right now who is affected. During these past 18 months, we all experienced new stresses, risks to our health, constraints in movement, changes in the way we work, and for many, the availability or safety of employment. We all experienced vulnerability, and these conditions were hard for everyone, but not equally. A recent survey described how 3 in 10 Californians experienced more tension in their romantic relationships. If you were with an abusive partner, the intensified isolation, pressure, and inability to get out of harm's way was scary. As we'll explore this evening, many people experienced new levels of risk and were forced to navigate really difficult circumstances when escape or protection was harder to access. Yet through it all, La Casa was there nonstop, stepping up to build hope, refuge, and resilience. So welcome. On top of celebrating the money you're helping us raise tonight, makes La Casa's incredible work possible. So let's pull up that thermometer. A big thank you to everyone who has contributed already. We are about halfway there, and there are many of you to thank. But first, this evening's sponsors. We're so grateful for your partnership, La Casa's advocates. AppLovin and First Republic Bank continue to step up and support our work. Our key sustainers and longtime partners, Compass, Kaiser Permanente, and Union Bank. And our supporters, Avalon Bay Communities, Joyful Heart Foundation, and Alaska Airlines, and all of tonight's sponsors. Thank you so much, all of you, for your support. We're thrilled to have several watch parties out there tonight. The San Francisco Joyful Heart Crew, Lena, Anita, and many others. So for 45 years, La Casa has been powered by community. And we look forward to being together in person in 2022. But right now, we have a message from our executive director.
Hi, and welcome again to La Casa's 2021 redHOT Party. La Casa thrives with the support and leadership of its board of directors. So it is with gratitude and appreciation that I recognize their service now. Our officers are Michelle Zaz, Christine Omada, Austin Essexon, and Carmen Sanchez. Our members at large are Betty Miller-Curry, Katie Hale, Melanie Jolivet, Dora Lee, Keisha McCurtis, Sean Steele, Carolyn Tsai, and Dr. Nancy Tucker. Thank you again for all you do in support of La Casa's mission.
We also have an amazing team of redHOT volunteers responsible for bringing this evening to life for all of us. Thank you so much, Karen Alvey, Lizzie Berkovitz, Leanne Seamet, Nicolo Cotarelli, Anita Iyer, and Tyler Jessup for your flexibility and drive over the past months. We're about to dive into La Casa's pandemic response, how we're helping survivors embark on new pathways to safety, and a special interview with Karen Alvey about opening her door to safety. First, though, I want to direct your attention to the opportunities that you have to participate tonight by making a contribution. There's an awesome auction where you can shop and bid for travel experiences, wine, food, and much more. If you're using a web browser, please check it out. It's going to be right up here on the auction items tab. But hopefully you've downloaded the Givey app on a handheld device to make bidding and upping your bid super easy. Either way, everyone should have received a unique ticket code by email that enables you to check in to the event either online or on Givey. If you haven't already, please find your code and check in now. My colleague Ankit is on hand. If you need technical assistance, you can call us at 415-503-0500 and get help getting connected. And here are a couple of auction highlights to whet your palate. You can choose your own adventure with an Olivia Brion tasting experience and a case of wine. She's offering 2 unique packages, one live and one virtual, or you can bid to stay in a grown-up treehouse in Santa Cruz, sleeping 6 for a whole week. This has been a pretty hot seller in the past, and I have heard it is really well worth a generous bid. So take a look. There's also sea kayaking and rock climbing. You can secure 2 tickets to anywhere in the continental US. No blackout dates apply. And that's especially valuable these days with the high cost of domestic airfare. And with Josie Baker, you can learn to make bread just like a pro. So there's a lot more. I've already been outbid on some shoes. And I hope you'll continue to take a look. The auction is going to close at 7 p.m. tomorrow. So get your bids in to support La Casa's uninterrupted domestic violence safety net and find out who your competition is tonight. We're also asking you to help us open the door to safety for thousands of people across the San Francisco Bay Area by making a direct contribution to help us meet the rising need for La Casa services. We'll talk more about it tonight, but you can check out the Fund a Need again on our website on its own tab or on Givey. If you're in a position to give and inspired to do so, you can process that gift anytime during the event without impacting your auction bids. And now here is a video about what you're helping us to do.
Founded as California's first shelter dedicated to survivors of domestic violence, today, La Casa is far more: a refuge, an advocate, a strong voice against domestic violence, building hope, refuge, and resilience across the broad spectrum of survivors' needs to be safe and thrive in violence-free lives.
Opening the door to safety. La Casa offers free, confidential, multilingual domestic violence support and prevention programs, empowering 13,000 teens, children, families, and adults in later life just last year.
La Casa's Drop-In Counseling Center is the hub of our domestic violence response, opening the door to all the resources survivors need to fight for themselves and the health and safety of their families. Intensive counseling, case management, advocacy, and community connections.
We partner broadly across the city to make sure safety and support is readily accessible to everyone 24 hours a day through our crisis and tech support lines.
A hub and spoke model. We reach across sectors, sustaining ambitious partnerships to make it as easy as possible for survivors across their diverse backgrounds and our city's wide-ranging neighborhoods to prioritize safety and get help.
When the police are called because of abuse, survivors are connected with La Casa. Our domestic violence response team and high-risk team centers safety, survivors' needs, and immediate access to critical assistance.
When you're not safe living in your apartment or you need help staying safe and staying housed, La Casa's Safe Housing Program is there to advocate for basic adaptations to protect your safety, to facilitate relocation, and to build safety within housing communities.
When you don't feel safe anywhere, you've been displaced by domestic violence and need a place to land, to be safe, and to think about your next steps, La Casa's emergency shelter is there 24 hours a day, helping women and families surviving abuse begin healing and find their way forward with safety, love, and acceptance.
When you're struggling to make ends meet, support growing children, and manage a life disrupted by violence, La Casa is there to help you access stabilizing resources, build financial literacy, and address economic and emotional wounds created by abuse.
When a doctor or nurse asks or notices your repetitive injuries or the signs of domestic violence at a medical appointment at one of Zuckerberg's San Francisco General Hospital's 5 primary care clinics, La Casa is there to talk about your safety, options, and to plan next steps.
When dating and romance is new and you're among the 1 in 10 dating teens suffering violence and coercion in your relationship, La Casa's teen program provides age and content appropriate advocacy and support.
When you've survived trauma, trafficking, homelessness, and abuse, and you want and need a safe space for women-identified individuals only to call home, La Casa's case managers will help you settle in, build community, and accomplish your next step goals.
When you've got a job, an actionable plan to increase your income, and just need a temporary income boost to afford a safe, stable home for your family, La Casa's Domestic Violence Housing First program is there to provide support in up to 18 months of tapered parental assistance. And new in 2021, when Family and Children's Services is concerned about a child's health and safety, and domestic violence is also at play in the home environment or primary caregiver's relationship, La Casa will focus our safety first lens on supporting and building the survivor's protective strategies and addressing the needs of the entire family to keep children safe and build resilience.
Domestic violence can have wide-ranging effects on survivors' lives, and La Casa's specialized services recognize and respond to these realities.
With your support, each year La Casa empowers thousands of community members with a bold message. You are worth it. Prioritizing safety, developing connection, increasing knowledge about the dynamics of abuse, strengthening personal agency, building stability and self-sufficiency. Together, we can stop the cycle of violence.
We just heard from Carolina, Beatriz, and Daisy, actually, we didn't. We just heard about La Casa de las Madres. I really wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to look at one more of those issues. So
Hi,
I'm
good
really
evening.
pleased.
I'm joined here this evening by 3 amazing La Casa program managers. Collectively, they represent several decades of experience working with women,
well, you just
teens,
saw
and
that
children, survivors of domestic and intimate partner violence. We hope to share some wisdom and information with you this evening. And if you'd like to learn more, please reach out and we'd be happy to engage. So with that, let me introduce to you Daisy Bravo, our shelter program manager, Carolina Alaniz, who is our crisis support manager. And right now she is also managing our community education and outreach programming. And we're very grateful to her for that. And Beatriz Vasquez, who is our community programs manager. And if you follow us on social media, you will have seen in the last couple of days that she received an awesome shout out in Mother Jones magazine. To the 3 of you, I want to acknowledge that survivors of domestic violence come to La Casa with needs and priorities as diverse as they are. You and your teams meet with them in their very unique circumstances and provide them with the tools to transform their lives. And that is a very powerful intervention. And so with that being said, I'd like to start with Daisy. And I'll just say that you and your team haven't really missed a beat at shelter. What's it been like, and how is it different than it was before COVID?
Well, quite a bit has changed. But the one thing that hasn't changed is, DV is always happening, and we have always been there to answer the call 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, sheltering women or taking just a crisis call, giving someone an opportunity to talk to. So when the pandemic first started, the first thing we did was just keep everyone separated. We had to close down our living room, close down our child's play area, close down our snack room. And so really, just trying to mitigate COVID, and everyone had to have their own bathroom. So we had to cut our residency by about half. So typically we're able to take in, 35 to 40 women and children. So, we were at like half capacity. And then just as things changed, we had to start getting people tested for COVID. Every day we do screening. So we do room checks, we take people's temperatures, we ask about symptoms. That's still going on right now. Our residents are receiving weekly COVID tests as well. But one of the big changes was the holidays. So last year for Thanksgiving, typically our residents sign up, to cook. They like to prepare their favorite meals for Thanksgiving, but last year the women could not be preparing the meals in the kitchen. So staff prepared the entire meal. And instead of having our usual family style, dinners, we had to serve them. So they were not able to come into the kitchen. And our meals also had to be staggered. So everyone couldn't be in our dining room at the same time. For Christmas also, we typically on the day or on Christmas Day, we have Santa that comes over, and everyone's in the living room and he passes out presents to all the children, but Santa was not able to come over and the children could not all be together having cookies and hot cocoa. So it was more of an individual festivities with moms giving the children their gifts.
Beatrice, the drop-in center reopened all the way back in 2020. Why was that so important, and what's it like today?
It was definitely very important to open up our drop-in center. A lot of people being sheltered in place and not being able to access service created a lot more unsafe environments for them at home and for their children. So it's important for us to have our doors open for some people to come in and get the resources and support that they needed to create safety, but also to allow them to voice what their needs were. Some people were struggling with employment no longer being an option for them. Basic needs were needing to be met. We were able to provide them with additional resources such as, the diapers, household good pickups, toiletries, things that they needed on a, daily basis. And right now it's actually, we're back in services as we normally would. We did make some changes into how we're providing services. So without clients just coming in person, we're also offering the services over the phone to accommodate whether it's, medical needs or just safety around, the COVID-19 virus still out there, and making people feel comfortable meeting them where they're at and still being able to access our services. We're doing screenings here like we do at our shelter, temperature checks when people come in, mask requirements, still social distancing, but we're still able to provide that in-person service and some sense of safety for people who are in need.
Carolina, the text line has gotten a lot of buzz, and it's been a crucial lifeline for many people. A connection to a ready ear, options counseling, and safety planning. What's it like to respond to a crisis by text?
Yes, thank you, Kathy. It's been a challenge. It's different. I had experience at answering calls by the phone and the crisis line in person, but doing it in a text was it's different. We have to be careful about many things, safety, like, in La Casa, the first thing we always try to provide is safety for our clients. So making sure that the client on the other side is safe is one of the main things that makes it a little bit challenging with the text line. But it's very exciting. And I think since we had the talks about like getting the text line, I was part of that, all those talks. I always thought it was very important to have this new program, but now so much like during the pandemic, I think it was crucial to have this outlet for many of our survivors to be able to communicate with us and keep receiving services when it was not safe for them to do it in another way.
Yeah, I think you and I can agree on that there was definitely a need. There was definitely a need in that people were inside a home with someone that might be causing them harm, and they weren't able to make phone calls. And so texting was the only option.
Yes.
So I agree with you on that. That was really important.
Yeah. So I agree during these times when many of us were safe in our home, for many of the victims, it was not safe for them or their kids. And I say, because you help a lot on the text line too. We have many texts where clients shared that they didn't have a safe place to even make a phone call, and they couldn't go out. So being able to we have texts from, I'm in the bathroom, I'm in the laundry room texting because it's the only safe thing, and just being able to communicate with someone and not feeling so isolated, it was very important. And also for the loved ones, we receive a lot of texts from family members, friends asking for help. I think many people become more aware in this pandemic while their loved ones were going through. So I think it was also crucial for those people to receive, our services. We were able to accompany them in like ways to, how they can help their loved ones, how they can support them without judging them, and being there for them. So the victim that doesn't feel so isolated.
We just heard from Carolina, Beatrice, and Daisy about how La Casa showed up every day over the past 18 months for survivors to ensure a safety net was strong across the Bay Area, as well as how difficult it was and has been for people experiencing abuse. We at La Casa talk and think about these dynamics on a daily basis, but I recognize this is probably not the typical conversation in your household at 6:25 on a Thursday night. So again, we want to say thank you for being here. I also want to give you the chance to catch your breath before we dive back in, and to remind you of the work that of La Casa's incredible team is only possible because of your support. Since our communities have been reopening to life in public, with survivors going to the doctor, coming to school, and seeing loved ones who may notice the signs of abuse, calls to La Casa have been surging again over last year's levels. This summer, calls on our hotlines went from about 450 a month to nearly 600 calls. And yesterday, we answered 27. Every call is an opportunity, and your support goes a long way. La Casa answers our phones 24 hours a day with live trained advocates ready to talk, to consider options, and to bring someone into safe shelter anytime, day or night. With a $100 contribution, we can open the door to safety for 5 hotline callers taking their first step toward a life free from abuse. A $1,000 contribution opens the door to a whole week of safety and around-the-clock support for a woman and 2 children at our emergency shelter. A lifeline for survivors with nowhere else to turn. Domestic violence is a primary cause of economic instability and homelessness for more than half of homeless women and children. No one should be forced to make the choice between abuse and homelessness. And at the $5,000 level, which you can see on Givey or online, you have the opportunity to fund that critical safe haven for 5 families. So now let's hear more from Kathy and the La Casa team about what needs look like right now.
The next thing I want to talk about is really for Beatrice and Daisy. And Beatrice, I'm going to start with you. Over the last year, there's been a lot of opportunity around federal funding for housing and homelessness. And we certainly have jumped into that pool. And I'm interested in hearing from both of you what that's been like, and I really and what it's meant for our clients. So Beatrice, do you want to start?
Yes, I can start with that, Kathy. So we were able to have access for our clients for emergency housing vouchers. It has been very exciting, and I think it's a life-changing thing for our families who were able to participate and receive vouchers. We've been able to support clients who weren't able to obtain safe and permanent housing through other resources and avenues to actually be able to work hands in hands with La Casa and the Housing Authority to process applications, to look and search now, not only to educate themselves, but just for the future as well, to be able to obtain safe housing for them and their children. With be able to keeping long term, clients have shared how exciting this has been. Some have shared that they're very shocked that this actually opportunity was there. We got a lot of phone calls of people not believing that this was real and happening. It's been very rewarding to see that we've been able to make a difference for someone in not just their safety, but in long-term being stable, being able to provide for their children, a safe place to live, to continue school, and whatever it is that they're looking forward to continue to work on their trauma and as a family as a whole move forward. So it's been very exciting for the staff and for clients to be able to have this opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Daisy, how about for the clients that you're serving in the shelter system?
Yeah, so we've had quite a few of our families that were recipients of the emergency housing voucher. And they've also just been very excited from day one, from when they turned in their application and then when they received the notification that they had been approved. It's just been a lot of excitement. They've been on it and searching for housing. Of course, the staff here is helping them with the search as well. One of our families currently is waiting to hear from one of the landlords. It looks like they might be getting a place really soon. And so they also do express how it's bittersweet because, they like being here. They like having the support from the case managers, and so they want to get out of here, but at the same time, they're gonna miss us, but they're really looking forward to their independence and having their own place.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so I want to circle back to you, Carolina, and ask a question that I think we probably all think about all the time, and that's who are we not reaching? Who is it, and where might we go in order to connect with those individuals who are not able to access services? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I want to say I feel I've been with La Casa for almost 7 years, and through these years with La Casa, I feel like I was able to see many new programs open up at La Casa, because I think we've been very receptive of what the community needs. But always there's more work to do, right? I think the court will be a good place to be, to provide support for the people that have to go to court for different reasons, divorce, custody, being able to be there to support the victims. I think it will be a good place to have a new advocate there.
Yeah. Yes. Is there anything that, this is for all three of you, is there anything that you feel, although Carolina, I think you probably, you summed it up really well in that last piece, but is there something that you would like people to know that you think maybe they don't know about La Casa? Something that you think might inspire people to want to volunteer or support us or come and see us for services?
I can start if everybody let me. Well, I guess for me, I would say, and this is very general, for me, I feel I've been in this field for 21 years, and I feel very honored to work at La Casa. Everywhere I go and I say I work for La Casa, everybody knows our agency. They know what we're doing for the community. So I think it's an honor to be part of this agency. So I don't know, I think I feel like we're doing a really good work. Also, I want to mention about, we care about our staff, about victims and survivors, but also, the community that has been a big voice during the pandemic, that they want to help, they want to volunteer, they want to be part of this cause. And I think we also opened a door for those people. We were able to have volunteers through the pandemic, even though it wasn't safe for them to be in our shelter or our community office. We were able, through our text line, to have different volunteers, and they were able to share their skills with us. A very interesting fact was that we had volunteers all over the United States. We had someone New York, Texas, San Diego, I think was one from Fresno, and our biggest one from Sonoma. Yes.
Yes, there is a voice in Sonoma that likes to respond to texts.
We're very grateful for everybody.
Beatrice, you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually think something people don't know is, and may not realize, and might entice people to volunteer, is we have a great team here. I think from our executive director to our HR director to all the managers who support all the programs, but also the staff members who do the direct service work. I think we all work very well as a team. We support each other, not just when we're helping our clients, but just in general, when we're here to work together. We really do value the work that we do in the agency we work for, and we all look forward to coming in every day, actually doing the work and working with each other. We're a very, very good support system for each other here, and I think that's very hard to find in a lot of agencies. But even with the hard work that we do every day, everybody really does work as a team here, and we're all in it to really help the community.
Thank you. Daisy, you want to close it up for us?
Sure. I just think that for anyone who's interested in volunteering, there's just so many different opportunities, so much to do, whether it's from direct service with our clients to having groups with our children, or just helping, organize drives for whatever materials we need, organizing our basement, or doing tabling events out in the community, just so that we can, do more outreach, get even more out there, and just spread the word of La Casa. And for anyone that may need our services, just really getting people to spread the word.
Straight from the source, our power really does lay in community. As you just heard from our all-star staff, La Casa's dedication to mission, to building new pathways to safety, and to opening the door to thousands of survivors in the San Francisco Bay Area is the result of a lot of community and support from each one of you out here in our virtual audience this evening. I would love to take this moment to look at the thermometer because I've been told that we've had some gifts coming in and I wanted to have the chance to make sure that I call out a few names. Of course, Julie Harkins, thank you so much for your incredible support. Lee Flynn, thank you. Judy and Joe Serrato. We have had gifts from Elle Destry and Jennifer Rubing. Thank you all so much for your support. Now we're going to jump into the final piece of our message tonight when we want to hear from our special interview with Karen Alvey about her experience with domestic violence and how the door for safety opened for her. I am honored tonight to introduce longtime La Casa champion, Karen Alvey. Karen, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with La Casa?
Well, pretty much as soon as I moved to the Bay Area, I started looking for a way to get to help the cause of domestic violence, and I found La Casa.
What keeps you connected today?
Well, I've been volunteering for years, a lot with redHOT, and just being a small part of the important work that La Casa does every single day is a gift.
And Karen, you have your own personal experience with domestic violence, and I'm grateful that you have decided to come and share that with us this evening.
I met my now ex-husband while I was in school. He was in school as well. He was in law school in another state. We immediately bonded. I thought he was everything. He was charming. He was smart. He loved me. And when he asked me to marry him, I couldn't wait. I left school and moved in with him. And it was pretty soon after that that this wonderful relationship went south.
And I know that when you're in the midst of that escalating dynamic, it can be impossible to see what's happening. What started to change around you? What do you see now?
Everything just started to get tense. I didn't know who I was going to see when I got home at night. Was it going to be the loving husband that I married, or was it going to be someone who was angry and mean? It started with verbal fights that would just turn into everything from accusations to put downs, ultimately threats. He got angry often. And then he would, apologize profusely after every time. He was very controlling, and he started to do things that I thought at first were loving gestures. He wanted to know where I was. He wanted to know when I was going to be home. But that turned into not wanting me to be around my friends and finding reasons to make me avoid them. I didn't know this at the time, but he had hid messages that my family had left for me, trying to connect with me, while at the same time just convincing me he was the only one that really loved me. When things started to get worse, I withdrew from my family because I started to be afraid. By this point, we'd had some physical episodes, one of which he shoved me and I hit the wall and a lamp, and I'm sure it made a huge thud because it wasn't soon after that I even called the cops and they showed up. And when they did and they looked at me, I told them, no, everything is fine. It's all fine. I didn't know what else to do. I was at that point just so afraid of what might happen if I told them the truth.
When did things change for you?
It really escalated.
Over 10 years, right?
Oh, yeah. And it really escalated to some points where I would leave for a couple of nights and then come back. Every time he was apologizing, every single time. I love you. I love you. Don't ever leave me. If you do, I don't know what I'll do. I'm going to kill myself. And then those same threats would be followed by, and if you leave, if I don't kill myself, I'm going to hunt you down. So it was all this back and forth. It was an emotional roller coaster.
How did you leave? What happened?
I finally started to realize it was him. I think in the back of my mind, but one night in particular, I had gone to work. I had gone to a yoga class. I came home and he started accusing me of lying. This turned into a really ugly fight. Again, verbal, and then it became physical. And the next thing I knew, I was on the ground and he was pinning me down with his arms, his hands on my throat, and I couldn't breathe. When he finally let up, I knew that I had to do whatever I could to get out of there that night. That if I didn't, I might not survive it. Did whatever I could to calm him down, to tell him, don't worry, I'm not leaving. I know, you love me, I love you, everything is gonna be okay. I ran and I hailed a cab, and when they asked me where I wanted to go, I just said anywhere, just take me to a hotel. When I got back to work, one of my friends knew something was really wrong. And when I shared a bit with her about what happened, she told me, you're not going to be safe there, at home, here, at work. And sure enough, he showed up at work.
So Karen, you've told me that you have your own Casa de las Madres.
It started with my friend Kate, and then all of our mutual friends that she rallied together to support me in so many ways, in making a decision to leave for good, to leave not only the house and him, but I left the city, I left the state. I was so fortunate. They put the wheels in motion and I had resources to get another job. It took me so long to figure out what it was that was happening. I didn't realize that domestic violence, that's what I was living. By being involved with La Casa, I have so much hope about the future. I survived. I'm thriving. I have healthy relationships. I've reunited with my family. And then I get to be a small part of La Casa and see all of the important work that you do every single day, 24/7. And that gives me hope.
Well, I'm so grateful to you for all of your support of the organization and for, sharing your experience here with us tonight. I think it really, puts such a fine point on how important it is that programs like La Casa's exist and the vital services that we provide. Not everyone has their own support network, and for anyone who's in need, La Casa is there 24 hours a day to make sure that safety is accessible and that hope is available. I want to thank you, Karen, for being so brave and sharing with all of our guests tonight why La Casa works so hard to build awareness about abuse and how we can all play a critical role in stopping cycles of violence. And now it's your turn out there at home to help us open the door to safety by making a contribution to fund our life-saving services. What can you do? Well, these fund a need levels tell you exactly what La Casa can accomplish in exchange for your contribution. Not only does this organization have a mighty heart and offer transformative services, but we really manage to get a lot done with a little. So please give what you can at a level that feels meaningful to you. Every dollar you contribute will help us open the door to safety to people who are surviving domestic violence right now. And I'm going to invite Karen Alvey in to help me right now. And we're going to start with funding Violence-Free Futures at $10,000. La Casa, go ahead.
La Casa provides intensive counseling and case management to help survivors rediscover themselves, find and establish safe homes, build economic capacity, and grow resilient children. A $10,000 contribution opened the door to safety at La Casa's drop-in center and 10 community access points, making immediate safety and critical support readily available for over 2,000 survivors just this year.
That's that's a lot of work right there. Again, I really want to thank Julie Harkins for giving so generously, and another longtime anonymous supporter that just made a $10,000 contribution. We've got $50,000 more to go. Of course, the Fund a Need is an important part of the way that we're going to raise those funds, but the auction is also still live and will continue to accept your bids through tomorrow at 7 p.m. Let's see. Should we move to the $5,000 level?
Let's do it.
Also, if you're putting an item in your cart right now and making a donation, don't worry, we'll circle back and acknowledge you.
Absolutely. Thank you to everyone who's given so far. So during the shelter in place, La Casa's emergency shelter really did go into overdrive to sustain a safe place for survivors of domestic violence. Accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, La Casa provided uninterrupted services, even when many other shelters shut down. We answered calls for help and worked hard to assure survivors the shelter setting would be safe in the midst of COVID. And as a result, 307 women and children have been able to be safe with La Casa and find the space to begin healing.
If you can give $5,000 tonight, you'll open the door to 5 weeks of around-the-clock unwavering support. Look. Ah, thank you, Nicolo and Kiara. That's really generous, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Should we go to 2,500?
Let's do it.
Okay.
So, calls increased again, over 53% across the summer. Last year, messages to La Casa's text support line skyrocketed 112%, and its confidentially located safe house never shuts its doors. Your $2,500 contribution funds La Casa's Open the Door to Safety for 125 people who need help.
That's $2,500 to answer 125 calls for help. That was calculated before the most recent surge in calls to our hotline. So if you think about the number of calls that we're answering now, that $2,500 gift will open the door to 189 people instead. So the need for La Casa services is really rising, and we appreciate your support. Should we go to 1,000?
I mean, people can still give at the other levels, but yeah, let's move on and tell them about the next one.
Absolutely. $1,000 funds a lifeline for a survivor and her 2 children in our emergency shelter for 1 week.
More than a beacon of hope, La Casa's Safe House is a lifeline for hundreds of women and children escaping abuse each year. You can open the door to safety for a family of 3 by funding around-the-clock counseling and empowering support for 1 whole week. La Casa provides 3 warm meals each day, make sure families have the clothing, toiletries, tangible and emotional resources they need, and they provide a critical safe space, room to think, and to relaunch a new life free from violence.
That 35-bed shelter is usually filled with about half children at any one time, and it's a really critical resource. As we said before, emergency shelter is not a place that you want to be, but when you need to be there, it's really important to have a warm, safe space where you are welcome, where you can find the space and the time to figure out what you need to do next. And thank you again to Lee Flynn and Jennifer Rubing and all of the individuals who have given at this level. Kathy Black, thank you for your generous gift this evening. We really appreciate everybody's support. And again, you can keep giving, but we're going to move on to the $500 level, healing play therapy.
Children are the unseen victims of domestic violence. Open the door to safety by funding 4 therapeutic playgroup sessions for moms and kids in emergency shelter to experience joy and heal relationships harmed by abuse.
The case managers at the shelter work one-on-one and in group settings to make sure that, that relationships have the opportunity to heal and reconnect. Those bonds can be disrupted, and we know that children, whether or not they're directly impacted by abuse, certainly express that experience in different ways. And a lot of times, it's really helpful to have somebody to listen to you and your challenges and redirect the relationship that you're having with your child, and really just allow you to be a mom and child together. So these healing child playgroups and the one-on-one services we provide are really important to the 166 children that we served last year. Maria B. and Austin Exon, thank you so much for your contributions. In addition to all of those who you see on the screen that we were able to recognize, thank you so much for your support. Let's go to 250. Okay. At the next level, you can help us prevent future abuse.
1 in 10 San Francisco teenagers will experience sexual or dating violence this year. Your contribution of $250 can open the door to safety for 100 teens by giving them the tools to see domestic violence, stop the dynamics of abuse from taking hold of their lives and relationships, and build healthy relationship expectations.
Absolutely. This is a really important part of the work that we do. And in the pandemic, we were able to continue reaching out to schools and high schools and across the Bay Area to make sure that they were accessing healthy relationship information. We've heard from several folks that we work with that the pandemic has been really challenging for youth who have been taken out of social settings and are really struggling in determining how to move forward and having challenging experiences. So these prevention workshops that we provide are really important in making sure that teens have really specific support services if they find themselves in a dating abusive relationship. But let's go ahead and move on. I see that we want to acknowledge Emily Gonzalos and Sean Steele for their contributions. Thank you guys so much. Let's go to our final level tonight, which is last but very much not least. You can open the door to safety with a $100 contribution. And every dollar makes a huge difference here at La Casa. So please consider a $100 contribution. What is that gonna do, Karen?
$100 is going to open the door to safety for 5 hotline callers taking their first step towards a life free from abuse through La Casa's 24-hour multilingual teen and adult crisis lines.
Absolutely. That is really important. And we have a few people I think that we want to thank: Mary Ruth Malloy, Jess Nixon, Mary Gail Thomas. Please consider making a contribution. We'd love to have your support. Well, I know we've even gone a little over time, so I think we want to make sure that we wrap up tonight. But again, I want to thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And to all of you who are participating with us this evening, it is really an honor to be here celebrating La Casa's 45 years, an incredible resource, and at the vanguard of many people's journeys to safety, to security, to survival and thriving. And we would not be able to have the impact that we do without a community that was there supporting us, helping us spread the word, sharing information about abuse, and helping us move forward to another 45 years.
To another 45 years.
As we wrap up, we just want to make sure and give a big thank you to our in-kind and auction donors who helped to make this evening a great success. We are at $104,751. So we've really been able to move the needle tonight, and we appreciate your support and your gifts and your recognition of the important work that's happening every day here at La Casa. Keep giving. The auction's going to stay open until 7 o'clock tomorrow, and we are grateful for your participation. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.